So think back to the early 90s or the early 2000s. You finished work or school, Friday night rolls around, takeaway pizza is for dinner. But first, you take a visit to Blockbuster to rent or buy a film for the weekend. That was pretty much a perfect weekend back then. For some reason recently, when I was writing the script for my previous video, it popped into my head how much I miss Blockbuster. See, I was growing up in the early 2000s when I had my earliest Blockbuster experiences, so perhaps I'm feeling a little nostalgic. Today I wanted to make a video expressing how much I miss Blockbuster. Let's dive into some early 2000s nostalgia. Most weekends I would go out with my parents window shopping round shopping centres or travel to my local high street, and of course we'd always end up at Blockbuster. It was just a special experience every time I went in there. This particular store in my high street had heavy manual push-pull doors. It was like you were entering a bank vault. Then you had to pass through the security sensors that looked like something straight out of the 80s, and I doubt they even worked. And when you did get in, you were hit with the smell of a stale carpet, quiet pop music playing in the background, soft lighting and ceiling fixtures projecting a Blockbuster blue light. It felt like an Odeon cinema lobby, except there was DVDs and video games as far as the eye can see. That's how I knew I was in a Blockbuster, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Now, despite Blockbuster being predominantly a video rental shop, I used it to acquire my video games, as the nearest game to me was the next town over. So for me, it was Blockbuster every time. I preferred their atmosphere anyway. Sometimes I just went in there to browse. They always had the latest games in stock, apart from Red Dead Redemption 1 on launch day. That sucked. They also had a massive collection of pre-owned games too. I probably used to drive my dad mad, spending hours looking at all the games and always asking for the latest ones. Sorry, Dad. Their prices weren't too bad either for the games or DVDs. It was their rental prices that were quite steep though, if I remember. That might have been one of the causes of their downfall. I did used to browse the DVDs though, usually the ones I was too young to watch at the time, but I was always intrigued by the covers. It's where I always found my dad in the DVD section. He had a massive collection in the early 2000s, and I'm pretty convinced that all of them came from Blockbuster. But when I did find something to buy, even queuing up at the till was an experience. There was a massive CRT television above the till, mounted to the ceiling, playing trailers, or some days it'd just be displaying a blue screen. There was always food neatly stacked up, mostly Doritos and the dip, tubes of Pringles and Pepsi. Then the freezer of extortionately priced Haagen-Dazs ice cream and Ben & Jerry's. But I just loved the way the shop was set out. It always felt like a comfortable place to be. Even the posters advertising the latest film or game were nostalgic. Or the gaming accessories being displayed in the window that had been there for so long the sun had started to fade them. The layout and experience was heavily backed up by the staff. They were always so friendly and non-judgmental. Back in this time, people were heavily judged being a gamer. The staff in Blockbuster were gamers themselves and were enthusiastic about the film and game industry. My particular store seemed to have a very low staff turnover rate. We had the same staff in our shop for years, and they even came to recognise us over the years. Blockbuster was also the first time I traded in some of my old games for cash. I was so pleased making £4 on some old PlayStation 2 games. Blockbuster was also a place where I learned about new technology. It was the first time I saw a PlayStation 3 in person, and the first time I ever saw and heard about Blu-ray discs. They had a display demo, and I was blown away by the quality. As we moved into the 2010s, Blockbuster adapted with the times and started doing midnight launches of games and had gameplay demos running in stores during normal opening times. I remember walking in with my dad around the time the infamous Watch Dogs announcement trailer released. Blockbuster had a whole area assigned for it, and me and my dad were talking to a staff member, and we were discussing how good it looked and how it would be the next evolution of gaming. Times were simpler back then, and things didn't go as viral on the internet back then. Studios got away with a lot more trickery. My best memory from Blockbuster has to be in 2013. I can't remember exactly, but it was roughly when pre-orders opened for Grand Theft Auto 5. I was walking home from college. I was 16 coming up 17 at the time. I popped into Blockbuster to have a quick browse, but I needed to know if Blockbuster took pre-orders, as I knew, unfortunately, they were in a bad economic state at the time. I walked up to the till and spoke to a staff member that I'm pretty sure had been working there since the dawn of time. I asked if they were doing pre-orders for GTA 5. He said yes, they are. Would I like to pre-order now? He was ready to take my details. And of course, me, being an honest, upstanding citizen, I stated I'm still not quite old enough, but I just wanted to check. He chuckled and obviously said, come back with someone who is over 18. So later that day, I dragged my dad back with me and we got it pre-ordered, and obviously I transferred him the money. So, September 17th comes around. I'm still in college, but now I'm 17, still not meeting the age 18 requirement for GTA 5. It's our lunch break, and I said to my friends I need to collect my copy of GTA 5. I was just going to wing it, just see what would happen. But my friend, who was 22 at the time, volunteered to collect it for me. So me and my group of friends marched on down to Blockbuster. I can't quite remember fully, but I think I gave my friend the order number, and he went to the till and posed as me, and got me my copy of Grand Theft Auto 5 for the Xbox 360 on launch day. What a memory. Thanks, Jamie. I remember leaving the shop and my friend discreetly handed me the copy of the game, like we were doing a dodgy deal. It was so funny at the time. We were so anxious about getting caught. But the truth is, I doubt anyone really gave a shit. I remember us being so excited to see the front cover and all being desperate to read the back cover. I remember keeping it in my bag for the rest of the day, guarding it with my life, and just itching to get home from college and play. That was the last game I ever bought from Blockbuster, and it was a great last memory to have. I thought to myself when I saw the revenue numbers from GTA 5, it was the busiest I'd ever seen Blockbuster in years. I thought this might help save it, or keep it on life support for a little while longer. But unfortunately, no. A few months after this, my particular Blockbuster store announced it was closing its doors. So on the 25th of November 2013, I walked into Blockbuster for the last time, and from what I can remember, it was a sad sight. Most of the shelving and the decor was removed, and of course everything was discounted. Most of the decent games and films were gone. I left with a Family Guy Christmas themed DVD, as I was into Family Guy at the time, and a Roy Orbison CD, because I like Roy Orbison. But in reality, I just wanted to get something, that one last experience from my childhood. I remember walking out, turning around and taking it in for one last time and saying, bye bye Blockbuster, thank you, and walking away. Then, by the 16th of December 2013, all UK stores had shut their doors. The store is now a bed store. Talk about a downgrade. But what makes me miss Blockbuster? You might say things are so much better now, more convenient. You can load up Netflix or any other streaming service and have thousands of films and now video games, at your fingertips. You don't even have to leave your couch. And that is true. To be honest, some of my favourite and best shows I've ever watched have come from streaming. But to be honest, it's just the pure nostalgia, but also the ability to browse physical media, the choice to pick up a film or game and read what it's about, talk to staff about it, browse with your friends. It also gave us a chance to try games before we buyed. Renting was a fantastic idea, as even back then playable demos were going by the wayside. If you rented a game and noticed the game was completely broken, you've only spent £10, and you know you'll never have to spend your hard-earned money on the full game. These days you spend upwards of £70 for a game that's broken on launch, never gets fixed, and you never get a refund. Gamers had more choice back then. Now, in the digital age, we're almost held to ransom. Blockbuster had a good returns policy, and you always had the option to trade in too. It was also a good place to get the latest consoles. They always had good stock, whereas now we're always fighting scalpers and bots that buy up all the stock from online retailers. When Blockbuster was in its prime, it was a glorious time. But my story isn't going to end negatively though. Technically, Blockbuster hasn't faded entirely. There is one surviving store in Bend, Oregon, United States, which still trades like it's 2004 and has become a time capsule and a tourist hotspot. I would love to visit one day, but it's a bit too far for me for just a nostalgia trip, and expensive. But it has got me thinking, if it's still going strong, that means there is still a demand for physical media. Look how vinyls have made a comeback, and CDs never really died, and now they're on an upward trend, and Blu-rays and the 4K equivalents are now booming. People now want to start owning again. They're being sick of being held to ransom by the corporations, removing films or games at random from their services. So I would really love to see Blockbuster, whoever owns it now, to experiment opening some small stores, just to see what happens. I think they would do well, especially if they brought back trade-ins. That's how CEX here in the UK has survived for so long. It's now the modern day Blockbuster, but it's nowhere near the same experience though. But who knows? For now, anyone who is a fan of Blockbuster can still rest easy, knowing there is still one alive and kicking, even 13 years after the retailer's collapse. So the next time you're walking past a shop that still sells physical media, whether that is a CEX, HMV or a small independent shop, go in there and support them and enjoy the experience. And remember what Blockbuster gave us, because the experience of browsing and buying physical media might not be around forever.